At the beginning of the film, it is told that at the peak of the Roman Empire, they had spread their territory from the African desert to northern England, and even at that time, the Roman Caesar of the Roman Empire ruled over a quarter of the world. In the winter of 180 AD, the 12 years of the campaign against the barbarian tribes in Germania were coming to an end. They had only the last stronghold for them to break through to reach their victory. At the starting scene, a war general, Maximus, was seen preparing his troops for their last war in Germania. Not long after, a horse ran towards the horde while carrying a dead body in its back. It was a sign that the barbarians did not want to submit to the Roman Empire. Maximus signaled his men to get ready for the war while the barbarians began to push forward to the battlefield. Maximus gave the signal and the war started. Romans' fire catapults started raining on the barbarian troops indiscriminately. The archer began raining their arrows into the battlefield. Cavalry troops had begun to attack and the vanguard troops had also started to advance to war. The intense war between the Romans and the barbarian was heated until finally, the Roman troops were victorious, led by Maximus. The Roman troops returned from the battlefield. The son of Emperor Marcus Aurelius named Commodus along with his sister, Princess Lucilla, were asked by their father to come to the battlefield. In another place, Maximus was asking for permission from Caesar to return to his hometown because his task there was over. From a distance, Commodus came and immediately hugged his father. Commodus said that he had prepared 100 cows for his father for winning the war, but unfortunately, his father said that the one who deserved the award was Maximus. Hearing that, Commodus hugged Maximus and took his. At the night, Maximus visited his wounded troops. He felt sad and worried about them. He then went to the celebration where Commodus approached him and offered to be his general alongside him, but he refused and said that what he wanted was nothing but to return to his hometown to meet his wife and son. In the morning, Maximus visited Caesar in his barrack to get his permission, but instead, Caesar told him to be his successor and led the Roman Empire after him. With the help of the senators, the Roman Empire would become a republic. Marcus Aurelius wanted Maximus to be the Caesar and stop the corruption that existed in Rome, but Maximus instead refused the offer because he was just a general, and for him, the person who had the right to be Caesar was someone who understood politics. Maximus suggested Commodus for the role, but the Caesar refused it immediately. For the Caesar, Commodus didn't deserve to be the Caesar because of his childish nature. Maximus was confused. He asked for time to think about it. After the conversation, Maximus prayed and remembered his wife and children. He asked for guidance in his prayer. He was accompanied by his loyal man, Cicero. Meanwhile, in the Caesar's barrack, Commodus came to meet his father. There, Caesar told him that he planned to appoint Maximus to be the new Caesar to replace him after he died. Commodus, who heard this, felt disappointed and angry. He wondered why his father appointed not him, his own son, but someone else as his successor. While crying, Commodus hugged his father, not a common hug. He hugged his father's face and made him out of breath. The Caesar was murdered by his own son. In another place, Maximus, who was sleeping, was woken up and told that Caesar had died. He was shocked and rushed to meet Caesar in his room. When he arrived, Commodus was already there. Maximus found it strange about the Caesar's death. Princess Lucilla, who also felt something was wrong, suddenly slapped Commodus, but she then realized that Commodus would be the next emperor of the Roman and immediately apologized. In his barrack, Maximus ordered Cicero to wake Senators Gaius and Falco because he knew something was wrong. Not long after, one of the Roman generals, Quintus, came to his room. Maximus told him that the Caesar had died unnaturally, but Quintus suddenly ordered his men to arrest Maximus. It turned out that Quintus was ordered by Commodus to execute Maximus because he was suspected of Caesar's murder. The next day, Maximus was taken to a forest to be executed. In the last seconds, he was able to fight the executors and run away. He rushed to his house to meet his family. After going through a lot, Maximus arrived at the gate of his house. When he got there, Maximus saw that everything had been burned down. He ran to his house and saw his family hanged and burned by the Roman troops. He was too late. Maximus cried over his dead family. He then buried them, but because of his wounds and everything he had gone through, he fainted. He dreamed about his family. After he regained consciousness, he was shocked because he was already in a carriage with a group of people he did not recognize. They took Maximus to a suburban town called Zuccobar. It turned out that Maximus was kidnapped by a group of slavers. At that time, a man named Proximo was looking for a slave and took an interest in Maximus. He then bought and took him somewhere. It turned out that Proximo was gathering slaves for a gladiator. Everyone was tested to fight to see if they were worth for gladiator. When it was Maximus's turn, he didn't do anything. He let the opponent beat him. In the camp, Maximus removed the tattoo on his arm, which indicates that he was a Roman war general because he had done with it. Maximus talked with a fellow slave named Juba. He wondered why Maximus didn't fight back when he was hit. He just kept quiet and said nothing. Shortly after, the person who had beaten Maximus appeared. His name was Hagen. He was also a slave. Hagen explained that if they want to be free from that place, they must win every battle and be the strongest. Then, these slaves were brought into the battle arena. Proximo was challenged by his business partners to bet on the death of his two new people, namely Maximus and Juba. Hearing the good offer, Proximo accepted the challenge. Before the slaves began their battle, Proximo tried to fire his slaves' spirits. He said that nobody could choose when they died and how, but they could choose how they will be remembered. The gladiators then prepared themselves. In the arena, everyone was cheering, ready for the gladiator battle. Inside the arena, the opponents were ready with their armor and weapons. Everyone gladiator was chained in two. Maximus and Juba were chained together. They then proceeded to enter the arena. It can be seen that almost every gladiator had difficulties because of the chains. Luckily, Juba was strong enough, and with Maximus, they both could handle the battle and kill all of their opponents. Elsewhere in Rome, Commodus was finally crowned as the new emperor. All of the people yelled at him because they did not like him and his leadership. When Commodus arrived at the palace, he was welcomed by the senators. They continued to talk about matters of the kingdom. Commodus, who didn't like how the senators controlled his decision, finally left the place. Princess Lucilla, who was there with him, had to receive all complaints from the senators about his manner. Later on, Princess Lucilla met Commodus. He was still annoyed with the Senate. Princess Lucilla advised him to be patient, but Commodus didn't care and said that he would make the people of Rome happy. He told that if the citizens of Rome were happy with the victory after the war, they would love to see the fight itself in front of their very eyes. He then planned a gladiator fight to entertain his people. Elsewhere in the Colosseum, two senates were discussing Commodus's plan to hold a 150 days gladiator tournament to entertain the people of Rome and to get their sympathy for him. Somewhere else, a mini gladiator was held. Before the match, Proximo wanted Maximus to provide entertainment for the audience, not just to kill the opponents. Maximus then walked into the arena and was cheered by his friends. Maximus started slashing his opponents one by one in the arena until Maximus won the battle. After winning, Maximus, who was annoyed, shouted at the audience. Everyone was silent but later cheered at him, calling him a hero. After the battle, Maximus entered Proximo's room. Proximo praised Maximus's actions and heard that the young emperor, Commodus, had held a battle to commemorate the death of his father Caesar Marcus Aurelius. Proximo wanted Maximus to compete in the Colosseum, and if he won, he could meet the emperor in person. He was also promised his freedom. Hearing that he would be able to meet Commodus in person, Maximus agreed to battle in the Colosseum. He intended to revenge for the death of his family. Proximo then gave him a vest and Maximus left the room. On the roof, Juba was having a conversation with Maximus. He told Maximus that he missed his family. Feeling the same fate they shared, Maximus said that his family is waiting for him in the heavens. Long story short, the gladiators headed for Rome. When they arrived, they were taken to the gladiator barracks. Proximo got off the carriage and kissed the statue of the late Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who had given him freedom long ago when he was just a gladiator, while the other gladiators looked amazed by the Colosseum. A few moments later, Princess Lucilla went to a place where the senates gathered. She consulted with the Senate about Commodus. The Senate told her that Commodus went too far in his fantasies and his bad leadership. His all-out effort for the gladiator to commemorate his father's death was wrong in their eyes. Princess Lucilla then told the Senate that Commodus had sold all the supplies in Rome to fund the gladiator tournament, which would cause famine to the whole citizen. He even had planned to disband the Senate once the event finished. Princess Lucilla wanted the Senate to immediately stop Commodus's plan. He even let them finish him off if needed. The Senate warned Princess Lucilla to not be hasty because thanks to the event he held, he had gained the people's sympathy. The Senate instead waited until one by one, Commodus's enemies showed themselves, or until the people lost his sympathy for him before they acted. Proximo finally brought the gladiators to the city of Rome to enter the Colosseum, where the event to commemorate Caesar's death would be held. A few moments later, inside the Colosseum, a boy was looking at the gladiators. He then met Maximus and called him. They had a short chat. The boy prayed for Maximus's victory. Maximus then asked the name of the boy. He answered that he was Lucius. After knowing the name of that boy, Maximus was surprised because he knew Lucius was the son of Princess Lucilla. He looked at the surroundings to see if someone spied on him. Before entering the arena, Maximus and the other gladiators were preparing for the battle. They used the armors that were prepared for them. The brave gladiators then entered the battle arena where many people were ready to see them fight for their lives. Not long after, the trumpets were heard signing the arrival of the emperor. Everyone cheered. After that, the promoter of the match said his greetings and introduced the barbarian as the opponent for the gladiators. Maximus confidently told his fellow gladiators to follow his lead to win the battle. The arena gate opened and the barbarians entered the arena. The battle started. The archers of the barbarian began shooting their arrows at the gladiators. With Maximus as the leader, the gladiators managed to bring down the barbarian cavaliers. They took over the carriage while Maximus took one of the horses and managed to finish the remaining barbarians. The gladiators won the battle. After the battle ended, Maximus took a spear intending to throw it at Commodus, but unfortunately, Commodus already left his place. He left to enter the arena to meet the gladiators by himself. Maximus was seen looking down while groping the sand looking for sharp objects, but once again, he couldn't attack Commodus because Lucius was standing in front of Commodus, making it difficult for Maximus to attack him. Commodus asked what was Maximus's real name, but he didn't tell him and turned his back to Commodus. Not getting the answer to his question, Commodus was mad. Suddenly, Commodus took off his helmet and told him his real name, Commodus, the general of the Romans. Commodus saw him in terror, because previously, he had ordered his men to kill Maximus, but somehow, he appeared right in front of him. Commodus, who was angry, ordered his men to get ready to kill Maximus. The people who saw him shouted asking for Maximus to be allowed to live. Afraid that he would lose the sympathy of his people, he let Maximus live and left the Colosseum. Maximus and the others also took their way out of the arena. Along the way, all gladiators chanted Maximus's name. After the incident, Commodus went to the dungeon to see his father's statue, Caesar Marcus Aurelius. He took a sword and slashed the statue to vent his anger. On another occasion, Commodus was seen busy signing royal papers. Shortly thereafter, Princess Lucilla came to see him. Commodus confided that he had been betrayed by his own troops in Germania, because the troops he ordered to kill Maximus reported a lie to him, saying that they had executed Maximus, but somehow, Maximus showed up alive in front of him. Princess Lucilla suggested he punish his men who had lied to him. In another place, guards came into Maximus's room and brought him into a room. Inside, Princess Lucilla was waiting for him. Maximus, who was still angry about the death of his family, accused her of being involved, but apparently, she was not. She was also very angry about the death of her late father, Caesar Marcus Aurelius. She was always afraid and lived in terror every day. She said that she saw a glimmer of hope in Maximus the day when he won the gladiator. Princess Lucilla saw the moment when a slave became more powerful than the Roman emperor himself. Maximus had captured the heart of the people, which meant that he already had Rome inside the palm of his hand. Princess Lucilla wanted him to meet one of the senators and organized to dethrone Commodus from his throne. Maximus, who had been engulfed in revenge, didn't care about her plan. He just wanted to kill Commodus on his own. The next day, Commodus planned to execute two of his men whom he thought had betrayed him by giving a fake death report where it turned out that Maximus was still alive. They were the men of Quintus. Quintus said that the two thought that at the execution site, the troops who were supposed to kill Maximus were attacked by the barbarians. According to Quintus, the two people were loyal to the emperor, but Commodus didn't care about it. He still wanted to execute the two people mercilessly. At lunchtime, Maximus was given the food by one of the cooks. He was afraid that the food was poisoned and hesitated to eat it. Hagen then came and tried the food. Suddenly, he looked hurt while holding his neck, but it turned out that he was just joking. They all laughed together. In the Colosseum, the next battle was about to start. Commodus came and sat down on his throne. The promoter of the battle started giving his welcome and started the match. It was seen that Maximus's former servant named Cicero was present watching the match. This time Maximus's opponent was Tigranes of Gaul, the greatest gladiator mainstay of the emperor. Maximus then walked into the arena. Tigranes was getting ready to fight in the match. This time, Commodus added 4 tigers in the battle arena. Several times, Maximus was almost bitten by the tigers, especially one moment when the tigers managed to bite Maximus's arm. Luckily, Maximus could kill the tiger and at the same time injure Tigranes' leg. Maximus managed to win the battle once again. The audience cheered for Maximus to kill Tigranes. Maximus opened Tigranes' mask and waited for a signal from Commodus. Commodus then gave a signal to kill Tigranes. Unexpectedly, Maximus instead dropped his axe and did not kill Tigranes. Commodus, who saw it, got mad. Because of what he did, the people who saw Maximus loved him even more and called him Maximus the Merciful. Unexpectedly, Commodus went into the battle arena and approached Maximus. He tried to incite Maximus' anger by saying that before his child and wife were killed, the troops he ordered tortured them both constantly. Maximus tried to stay calm and ignored what Commodus told him because he knew that he intended to make him angry and that what he said was nothing but lies. When Maximus came out of the arena, he met Cicero, who handed him a prayer statue. Maximus then told him to convey a message to his men, saying that their general is still alive and to get ready. In his room, Maximus couldn't contain his tears while praying and kissing the statue given by Cicero. He was accompanied by Juba in his room. The next day, inside the gladiators' barracks, Maximus met with Cicero. He asked him about his soldiers after he left them and asked about their readiness for a fight. Cicero said that they were always ready to fight beside their leader. Maximus told Cicero to tell Princess Lucilla and gave her a message that he was ready to meet her and the senator as Princess Lucilla wished. Later in, Cicero managed to convey the message to Princess Lucilla. In a hideout, Maximus, Princess Lucilla, and Senator Gracchus finally met. They planned to dethrone Commodus. Maximus asked the senator's help to free him and he would be back to Rome with 5,000 troops. Senator Gracchus initially disagreed with the plan. He didn't want to replace a dictator with another dictator, but he misunderstood. Maximus was not going to be Caesar himself. He just wanted to revenge for his family. After his mission was over, he would leave Rome and leave the fate of the empire in the hands of the senators. The senator asked for 2 days to free Maximus. Senator and Princess Lucilla then left the place. The next day, Senator Gracchus asked one of his men to bring some money to free Maximus, but unfortunately, Proximo saw the royal troops paying attention to them. The mission failed. Somewhere else, Proximo talked with Maximus, saying that he realized that he was being watched by royal troops and that that was a risky mission. Maximus convinced him and he promised to repay all of Proximo's kindness to him. Elsewhere, the royal troops came to Senator Gracchus and took him away. While in the palace, Princess Lucilla was surprised to see most of the senators were gathered there. When she entered her room, Commodus was already there. He said that he suspected Senator Gracchus because he had been provoking the other senators. He said that he would do something to silence him. That night, Princess Lucilla came to meet Maximus. She told Maximus that Senator Gracchus was arrested and Commodus was suspecting that someone was planning to dethrone him. She said that they had to do their plan tonight no matter what. In the palace, Lucius was seen practicing a sword fight with Commodus when he accidentally said that Maximus is a hero. Hearing that made Commodus angry and asked who told him about that. When Princess Lucilla returned to the palace, she was looking for Lucius everywhere, only to find him with Commodus. Commodus realized that Princess Lucilla had a plan to bring him down from his throne. He then asked his troops to arrest Maximus and kill all the senators by putting snakes in their beds when they were sleeping. Maximus was getting ready to carry out his mission, but outside, Roman troops had surrounded the barracks while pouring gasoline and burning down everything. Proximo then gave Maximus keys to all the gladiators' cells. Maximus then asked Juba to free all the gladiators. Unexpectedly, all the gladiators were willing to help Maximus fight the troops even though their lives were at stake. The royal troops finally made it in and the battle was inevitable. Maximus went to a secret passage to get out of the building unnoticed. Elsewhere, the troops managed to find Proximo and killed him. Hagen also got killed. He was killed by an arrow. When Maximus arrived and outside, he saw Cicero from afar. When he approached him, it turned out that he was already tied to the tree and hanged to death. He was also hit by arrows from the royal troops. It turned out to be a trap. Commodus had found out about Maximus's plan. Maximus, who had been surrounded by the troops, couldn't do anything but surrender. He was finally caught. In the palace, Commodus threatened Princess Lucilla that he would kill Lucius if she messed with him again. She couldn't do anything but cry. In the Colosseum, Maximus was seen chained. Commodus planned to challenge him in the arena to a sword fight. Before the fight, Commodus met Maximus, who was helplessly chained. He suddenly stabbed him with a poisoned knife. Maximus and Commodus finally entered the battle arena, escorted by several Roman troops led by Quintus. The troops formed a circle formation where Commodus and Maximus fought in the middle. The fight started. Maximus was not seen as usual because of the effect of the poison from the knife earlier. The fight was intense and Maximus was able to drop the sword from the hands of Commodus. Commodus, who was afraid to lose, asked the troops around him to give him a sword. Unexpectedly, Quintus instead ordered his troops to not give Commodus the sword. On the other hand, Maximus dropped his own sword and started hallucinating. Seeing this opportunity, Commodus took out a small knife and attacked Maximus, but with his skill, Maximus was able to turn around the situation. He beat Commodus and stabbed him with the knife in his own hand. Commodus finally died. Everyone who saw their Caesar had died fell silent. After killing Commodus, Maximus gave a message to Quintus to free everyone who fought at his side and gave authority to Senator Gracchus to reorganize the Roman government system. Maximus then fell. Princess Lucilla approached the dying Maximus and held him in her arms. With tears and goodbye, Maximus finally died. Princess Lucilla ordered the troops to give Maximus a proper funeral. Everyone approached to carry Maximus's dead body to give him the last salute.